somewhere on your phone is a balance that is not money. The points, miles, gift cards, app balances, and game coins sitting in your accounts are private currencies, printed by the companies you spend them at. Dollars go in, and they never come back out. More than 2 in 5 American adults hold a gift card they never finish spending. At Starbucks, more than 30 million people carry a balance in the app. Those look like 5 unrelated products, which means almost nobody notices they are one instrument in 5 different costumes. So, hold one question for the next 20 minutes. Why do so many companies work this hard to get you holding their money instead of yours? By the end, you will be able to price the balance in your own pocket and name who decides what it is worth. Ask anyone what the balance in a coffee app actually is, and the answer comes back the same way every time. It is my money, I put it there, and one day I will get around to spending it. That belief is doing an enormous amount of quiet work. The average American holding an unused gift card is sitting on more than $200 of them. At Starbucks, rewards members now drive most of what its American stores take in. So, here's the first thing worth sitting with. While your money is waiting patiently inside that app, where exactly is it? The company knows exactly where it is and what to call it. The name is not savings. Every public company has to publish a document listing everything it owns and everything it owes, right down to the last unpaid promise. The money on your coffee card appears in that document, but not where you would expect. It is not counted as a sale at all. It sits in the column of things the company owes, in among the borrowing. At the close of its last financial year, Starbucks was holding more than $1.5 billion of it. That is customer money, which means the company can spend it and never hand any of it back as cash. Loading a card is not a purchase because nothing has been delivered yet. The sale only happens later, when you finally order the coffee, and until then, the company holds a promise while you hold its currency. Unspent card value and unredeemed stars sit together in the same place on that document, waiting patiently for you to come back. The bigger that pile of unfinished promises grows, the more cash the company is holding that it never had to borrow. Money that arrives before the thing it buys is not the same as money that arrives afterwards. It is financing, because the company gets to use it in the meantime, for as long as you take to come back. There is no interest on it and no maturity date, which means nobody can ever call it in. One balance is temporary, and yours probably is. All of them together are not. New loads land every day while old ones are spent, which is why the total never actually empties. A pile of unspent balances stops behaving like a queue of orders and starts behaving like something else, a deposit base. The obvious objection is that none of this is new. Gyms take annual fees, restaurants take deposits, and nobody calls those private money. The difference is what you are left holding. A deposit buys one known thing at a known price. This does not. A balance buys anything the company sells whenever the company is ready to sell it to you. But some of that reservoir never drains at all. Roblox lost more than $1 billion last year and generated more cash than it lost. Both of those are true at once because of the same thing that puts your coffee balance in the liabilities column. Players buy the platform's coins with real money. Nobody can sell them back, and the only exit is to spend them inside the game. Last year, the company took in more than $6.8 billion of bookings and recorded far less than that as revenue. The gap is coins already paid for and not yet spent, which means the money is here and the obligation is not. That gap is not a rounding error, and it does not shrink because the unspent pile on its books runs to several billion dollars. A company like Roblox can therefore look thoroughly unprofitable on paper and still be swimming in other people's money. The float does not care about profit, only about whether the loading continues. There is a drawer in your house, and you already know what is in it. A card from a birthday, a card from a leaving present, a card with an awkward amount left on it. In every state, those unfinished leftovers add up to roughly $27 billion, sitting in drawers and forgotten apps. 1 in 3 Americans has lost money this way, which means it is not unusual. 1 in 5 let a card expire, and about 1 in 8 watched the shop close before they got there. Most of us file that under our own carelessness, but forgetting on that scale is a rate, not an accident. So, what happens to money that is never claimed, and who is allowed to keep it? And there is a sharper question hiding underneath that one. Even the balance you do remember is not a fixed amount, because somebody decides what it is worth. And it is not you. The industry has a word for money you never come back for: breakage. It is forecast years in advance because a large enough crowd forgets at a rate you can measure. Once that rate is known, the rules let the company book the unclaimed share as revenue. No coffee is ever made for that revenue, which means almost all of it drops through as profit. In 1 year, Starbucks recognized more than $200 million of it in its own stores, and the licensed stores added more. The obvious response is that this is small change. It is small change sitting on top of a far bigger pile of the same Starbucks customers' money, with no cost attached, and the company does not always get to keep it. Delaware treats a balance untouched for 5 years as abandoned property. At least 19 states now demand the same thing, which means the argument is no longer really about accounting. It is about whose money it was in the first place. Put a price on the thing you are actually holding. Go on. It is a fair question. The answer is deeply unromantic. Every major American airline mile is worth a little more than 1 cent when you actually spend it. A ticket that once cost 25,000 of them now costs far more than that. The chart that promised a fixed price became a moving one, which means the price now follows whatever the cash fare happens to be. Here is the question that makes everything after this matter. If a point is worth about a cent to you, what on earth is it worth to the company that printed it? Hold that one, because the cent it is worth to you is not fixed either. In the 1950s, Canadian Tire began handing out coupons that looked like banknotes and were meant to be saved. They were printed on banknote paper by the firm that printed for the Royal Canadian Mint and started at 5% of every dollar you spent. Today, they are worth a small fraction of that. No exchange rate ever moved against them, because the company setting the rate is also the only company honoring it. It happens faster now, and Delta Sky Miles gave up about 15% of every point's value in a single year. Award prices now follow the cash fare, which means the currency devalues quietly whenever tickets get expensive. Roblox does the same thing from the other direction, by announcing what a creator's coins are worth in dollars that week. The rate moves when the company says it moves. Every cut takes value back from anyone who is simply holding, which means devaluation is the cheapest way there is to shrink a debt. The strongest case against all this is that the value coming back is real. It is. Real flights and real coffee come out of these systems every day. The catch is that the party handing the value back is also the only party allowed to decide what it is worth. The second defense is that nobody is forced to load anything. Epic Games paid $245 million to settle Federal Trade Commission claims that its purchase screens charge players more than they ever meant to spend. The Federal Trade Commission said children ran up charges on a single button press because the screens made buying and confirming look identical. Nearly 1 million refunds followed, which means the confusion was not rare. The last defense is that this is already regulated. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has warned that devaluing points people had already earned can break the law. A warning is not a refund, and not a guarantee that your balance survives. There is also a second payment you have been making, and it has never been money. In 2020, the planes stopped, and the airlines were forced to raise cash within weeks. That is not what they borrowed against. United raised billions against Mileage Plus, and American Airlines pledged AAdvantage in the largest airline-backed financing the industry had seen. Lenders wanted the loyalty program because its cash flows were steadier than ticket sales. Selling miles to a bank does not depend on anyone boarding a plane, which is why that money kept arriving when the flying stopped. When independent valuers put a figure on those programs, each was worth more than $20 billion because those cash flows were contracted and predictable. For a stretch of that year, they were worth more than the airlines that owned them. So the answer to the question from earlier is an uncomfortable one. A point is worth about a cent to you, which means the value was never in the point. It is in the machine that issues them, and that machine turned out to be the most valuable thing United and American owned. The mechanism underneath that valuation is a wholesale window. American Express buys Sky Miles from Delta in bulk with real cash, long before any cardholder has earned a single one of them. The cardholder earns those miles by buying groceries and filling up the car. Delta is paid in dollars for a currency it prints itself, which means the cash arrives long before the cost does. Last year, American Express paid Delta $8.2 billion in cash, more than Delta made from actually flying anyone. It expects more next year because the bank keeps buying, and none of that money depends on a seat being sold. So the loyalty program is not marketing attached to an airline. It is a currency business with an airline attached, which raises the only question that matters if the company ever stops. When the shop is gone, what is your balance actually a claim on? And why does nobody ask that while the shop is still open? Every one of these systems asks you for something before it gives you anything. It is your name. You cannot earn a point anonymously because a point that is not attached to a named household is worth nothing to the company. Kroger runs a data company built on the swipes from its loyalty card, drawing on more than 60 million American households. It then sells the resulting picture of your household back to the brands that are competing for a place on the shelf. The discount is not a thank you, which means it is really the price of the identifier. So, the program is paid twice on the same transaction. Once when you come back, and once when your shopping history is sold on. Starbucks knows what its members drink and when and how often. It is simply the part of the deal that never shows up on the receipt. A gift card is a promise, and every promise depends entirely on who is making it and whether they are still there. When Bed Bath & Beyond filed for bankruptcy protection, it stopped accepting its own gift cards within about 2 weeks. Overstock bought the name, the website, and the customer list, but not the obligations. Everyone still holding a card became an unsecured creditor, which is the legal term for the back of a queue that usually runs out. The cards were not money, and they never had been. About 1 in 8 Americans has watched a shop close on a balance they held. The natural reaction to all of that is that none of it is yours to control, which is almost right. You cannot set the exchange rate or make a company solvent, but you can decide how long to be somebody's creditor. So the answer to the question we started with has 4 parts. A currency you can only spend in one place is paid for in advance, which means you finance the company. The share nobody claims turns into revenue with nothing behind it, and Starbucks books more than $200 million a year that way. It converts one way, so the demand it creates cannot leak to a competitor, or to a bank, or back to you. And the price of the whole thing can be cut at any time because the issuer is the only one quoting it. A discount costs money on the day you give it away. A private currency collects money on the day you print it. It is a currency, which is why American Express hands Delta billions of dollars a year in cash for miles Delta makes itself. Companies want you holding their money instead of yours because their money pays them 4 times over, and yours only pays them once. None of that makes these programs a scam. The coffee is real, the flights are real, and the coins buy what they say. It only means the thing in your account is a claim on a company, not a store of value. So the useful question is no longer what your balance is worth. It is who decides what it will be worth next year and how quickly you can spend it before they do. If that changed how the balance on your phone looks, this channel takes apart the money machinery behind ordinary things every week. Subscribe, and the next one will find you.